Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, unbound my voice is free.
Kinsey Moreland. You're listening to the Voice of San Diego Culturecast. I have a special episode for you because in the Voice of San Diego studio is the now, I would say, famous Voices of Our City Choir.
Woo!
Here we are.
And Steph Johnson. Would you introduce yourself for me?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Steph Johnson, and I'm the co-founder of Voices of Our City Choir.
All right, and if we could just go around the room and introduce yourself.
And my name is John Brady. I'm the production manager, and I run the advocacy group of the Voices of Our City Choir.
And hello, my name is Jeff Hayes, and I'm a member of the choir.
And my name is John Frawley, and I'm another member of the choir.
All right, you two have great voices. Are you in the baritone section? What part of the choir are we? Do you have a...
Wherever they'll take us.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it works.
We'll sing for food.
We actually, it's an interesting point. The choir tends to group up naturally. There seems to be friendships and groups that coalesce, and they sing together and they harmonize together, and that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. There's not so much these defined lines like in other kind of formal choirs. We actually, we have sometimes separate them into highs and lows, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they tend to be in groups, and they have their friends in their little pocket.
We're Flexa Choir.
It's a good way of putting it.
So let's talk about the genesis of this choir. How long has it been, and why did you want to start something like this, Steph?
I started the choir in the summer of 2016 because the city's inhumane policies had just reached this kind of unbearable. Well, the number of people living in the street just seemed to grow and grow like that summer, right? It was crazy. And then when I went to different lectures by Jeannie Crescenzo, different activist friends, I learned that Martha Sullivan, Lori Saldana. I learned that we were criminalizing people that didn't have a place to go. Then I found out that we had this housing crisis it's really kind of like simple math, like everything. We lost these 10,000 affordable housing units from the end of 79, like that we created from 79 to, 6 or 7 years ago. Anyways, they built some, but not enough. So people are in the street, and then they can't afford the housing. So, and they don't really have a voice. They're not represented. Nobody's really seemed to be caring.
And the time on the streets is nothing but a hardening experience. So we're just magnifying our problems by tenfold by letting people spend any amount of time on the street because it's just traumatizing.
Right.
Yeah, the ignorance is making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you had any sort of issue mentally hitting the street, even if you didn't, once you were on the street for that amount of time, you had issues. It was just that traumatic.
It doesn't take long for the trauma to start. And what we see a lot of times is anybody that has spent more than a year on the streets, that's going to take it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of love,
Yeah.
So what made you think a choir would help this? I mean, it's as you are indicating, it's a very serious problem. It's a very complicated issue. There's a lot of, building housing is a complicated thing.
Right.
What made you want to start the choir? How did you feel like that would help?
Well, I had no idea it would have the effect that it's had. I mean, let's just say that. This is just so beyond anything we could have ever dreamed. But the first thing I wanted was to just have a safe space to make music in. And we met Pastor Chris Nafis, who let us use his space for free. So really it was just, we were doing outreach, my friends and they would find out I sang and I played guitar, that I was there because of my own calling, not with the church or anything, just my musician friends and I. So it all started really organically. And for the love of music and the interest in music, different people I meet on the street that would immediately say, oh, you play guitar? I write poetry, or I sing, I play. So it definitely attracts people who love music, and also a lot of artists. We have a lot of artists and musicians in the choir. So, of course, I know that expressing yourself is like, the supreme blessing in life. If you can really express yourself, you feel so good. And that so much healing happens from that, just and being creative and hearing music. I mean, so it just kind of blossomed and started to take on also a voice at City Council, because I was already going to City Council and kind of asking my elected officials, what's up? And that kind of turned into the choir, thanks to Martha Sullivan and some other, John Brady here.
Some activists.
Yeah, it is really the only organized group of primarily homeless people that went and spoke at City Council and advocated. So,
and when you allow somebody who's spent time and understands to speak in front of City Council, there's a true emotional connection that happens. You can, when somebody's sharing their experience and their tears happen, it really has an impact. It's
people were literally like coming into City Council, like this one homeless family of 10, and like asking them, like we're call the mayor's office, like, can you please, help us? I mean, it's really, it was desperate. I mean, it was a desperate time. So the music became this family, this thing bigger than any of us. Everybody needs it, I feel. And it's a community choir, so it's for people experiencing homelessness, but also people who've maybe been affected by it or want to just come join us and sing.
And now we're 50 strong every week. At
50
rehearsal.
People are showing up on Fridays.
11.
Wow. So
not always the same group, but it's generally always 50 people.
There is a lot of substance to the old adage of music being a universal language. We're trying to reach a lot of people, and this is one of the most effective ways of them listening to what we have to say.
And the Conference of Audiology was just in town recently, and we got to see some of the science of music, and there's a true reformative effect that happens to people that are suffering from any sort of issue, whether it's substance abuse, mental anxiety, depression, all of those things, really.
Alzheimer's.
And yes, we actually, it's incredible. So we get that benefit, and it creates a lot of love within our organization. We care for each other. I recently attended the funeral of a choir member to respect that person, and it was beautiful. I mean, Ken passed away 2 weekends ago. And, he had an amazing life that we were just getting to know Ken.
He was our harmonica player.
He was our harmonica player.
So I want to step back just a minute. So when in the early days of Voices of Our City Choir, it was more therapeutic at first, right? So it was just to do it to give people who are experiencing homelessness a place to go and
be respected, be honored, and let's share food. You're not going to be criminalized. We're not calling the cops. We're actually wanting to know who you are, and let's make music. That was the beginning. And then it kind of morphed into, the media coming around and doing a story, thanks to the KPBS story that inspired Susan Pulishitz, and then it all started to be documented.
So you're talking about Susan, a filmmaker who has produced a documentary about this effort.
Yes.
So she's been with you since those early days.
Kind of the beginning. Yeah, like around February is when she started filming.
Yeah.
And last year.
Okay.
Right.
So all this happened very quickly.
Yeah, like she usually takes 2 years from start to finish, and she did this whole thing in less than a year. It was really unreal.
Normally to 5 years sometimes.
Right.
I mean, anyways. So there's the reason is because this is an urgent message. People. The old narrative, whatever that old narrative is that people are just addicted or just whatever. It doesn't apply anymore. There's families, there's women in the streets. So. I feel like, did we get off topic? You asked us a question.
So were you two with the choir from the beginning, or how did you
find? I came in pretty close to the beginning. I'd gotten off the streets for a couple of months. I was in a facility, and I picked up sepsis. And by the time I got out after about 8 weeks, my bed was gone. So I was back out on the streets. And I was in a tent close to John, and he told me that there was a choir in the church, and I had no desire to sing in a church choir. But I went in one day, and the first
We're a
thing
non-denominational
was,
choir, though. We would just use this.
Non-denominational. Let's make that clear,
Okay.
or I wouldn't be here.
All right.
And Steph just ran over beaming to me, welcoming me there. And I go, well, this might be a little different. And once they started singing, I really enjoyed myself. And I came back the next week and the next week. By about the third week, I asked if I could test out for one of the solos.
Oh.
And by the end of me testing it, I was told I got it.
You got the part. You own it.
Which was a big surprise because I didn't sing.
Really?
Right.
So that was your first experience with singing?
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
And now he's one of our stars. I mean, really, yeah.
Would it be too much to ask you to sing that solo that just a little bit maybe? We've got microphones in front of us.
Okay. In the cold mirror of a glass, I see my reflection pass. I see the dark shades of what I used to be. In the purple of her eyes, I see the scarlet of my lies. I said, love, rescue me.
Beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
So how did you find the choir?
The interview that Steph referred to on KPBS, I was listening one morning because I live in my car, and that's my entertainment. And I heard them talking about the homeless choir and being homeless. I thought, I should think about that. Mm-hmm. And then I heard them talk about the song list, which is secular as you can get. And I thought, I know every one of those songs because I sang them growing up or I learned them more recently, but I'm aware of many of them and I should be checking this out. And I went down and I joined in with a bunch of folks who obviously have a love of music in their heart, and they are simply looking to express themselves musically, but also to attract the attention of enough folks who we can change the perspective so that we are homeless people in general are treated more equally and understood a little bit more with some compassion. Not looking for a handout. We just want a chance to get up there and boogie again. And I've had a great time. The folks in the choir are just really sweet, wonderful, caring people, just like Steph said.
And the advocacy portion of the choir is more than likely what kept me going with it.
Okay. Wow. That's powerful. So after a few rehearsals and, you realized this was a powerful, wonderful thing.
People started to want to book us.
Okay.
All of a sudden they were like, oh, can we hire you? And, I spent all this time working on a repertoire with my, husband, Rob Thorson. And all of a sudden I had to put together a set so we could go perform. So then we became this kind of a working choir working on material to go perform with a live band. So it's myself, Leah Bowden on drums, Rob Thorson on bass, and Nina Deering directing. Now we have different rotating musicians on piano and stuff like that. But that's what we work on. What's a working choir? And
wow.
And it's actually grown so much that we've just decided that we're gonna open up the rehearsal to maintain an intro choir level in the beginning, and then now we have a performing gigging portion, so we can have the kind of intermediate choir, that way, because it's pretty intense. I mean, now we're doing like 14, 17 tunes. We have a big list of tunes we do.
There's 23 in the lyrics.
Or 23,
book now,
but in a show.
What are some of those songs? Can you?
We do
Love, Rescue Me,
What a Wonderful World, What's Going On,
Change the World,
Eric Clapton.
Change the World.
What else?
We've got
We Are Family.
We Are Family.
Golden, Jill Scott.
Ain't no stopping us now.
Yeah, that's great.
Good.
Right. And then your solo song is
I Can See Clearly Now.
And John heard us on the radio, and I'm glad he did because John's got an excellent voice,
yes,
and he's just started to really let it rip lately, and I'm so excited. He's doing a good job on your solo.
John, is it too much to ask? Got a microphone.
I got to back up a little.
We didn't do any warm-ups beforehand.
I can see clearly now the rain has gone. I can see all the obstacles in my way. I forget the words. I'm not with the choir. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
It's gonna be a bright,
sunshiny day.
Wow, you guys.
We have a lot of fun.
You gave me goosebumps. That's a
there
good
you go.
sign.
No, John did a great job. We had a concert on Saturday, and he sang that.
Right, we all did a great job. That's what
we sounded amazing in that La Jolla Cathedral.
Yeah.
So these gigs, I'm imagining, work as more than just entertainment. Is that right?
Right.
It's bonding.
it's bonding, but it's also informative, I think the audience is always kind of blown away when they see the people standing in the choir and they look just like them. They go, wow, that person doesn't have a house and they're being criminalized.
And there's
And
this
that's
thing
great. That could happen to me. It's just kind of, that's what needs to happen, is that people just got to take a look at the individual and say, wow, I could also have gotten MS, or I could have also having something happen. And,
And there are in the movie, John Brady, across from me, the other John.
Yes, John.
One of the other Johns. We have a lot of Johns.
So many Johns.
So many Johns, so little time. He had even mentioned, as some of the other folks who were interviewed in the movie, that they are degreed. And I'm sure a lot of people don't think of homeless people as having advanced degrees, and that they do. They're, they're out there. And
well, it's interesting now because, I always introduce myself as the production manager, but as I get to speak to somebody that's, wants to learn more about the choir, get more involved, I go, hey, look, I was on the street a year and a half ago, and it's partly because of the work we did with this choir that, that I'm no longer there, that I've got great mental health treatment now, and, and doing this amazing thing, it's beautiful. I mean,
but people are surprised. Like, we'll be meeting somebody and it's me talking to them, and then we're hanging out, having something to eat. And then they go, wait, you were homeless?
Which happens with a lot of with the majority of our choir members.
I thought you were a production manager, so maybe, I don't know.
But everybody in the choir, you'd walk up to on the street for the most part and go, and would have no idea that this is somebody that suffered from homelessness or whatever, all these issues.
Now, prior to the homelessness, we all have, more than likely, some very wonderful and interesting backgrounds, but people don't see that when they see you homeless.
Coming out of a tent,
Yeah.
Right.
So are any of you still living in a tent?
I'm off the street now.
Congratulations.
I'm housed.
Great.
I'm in my car. I'm happy in there. I mean, I fit.
Okay.
But that brings up an
my
interesting
mobile
topic.
home.
Living in a car is, you're fortunate enough to be in a facility, where a safe park facility, which is a blessing.
Which is something we all advocated for a long time.
The what's going on still is the aggressive harassment of people for simply being homelessness.
Right.
Even people in cars.
Yeah, and people in cars, once they identify that you're sleeping in your car, you can become a target. If they and they will attempt to get you to the 5 ticket level, where you are now subject to an impoundment, and they get your car off the street.
Yeah.
And that's it's horrible.
So you mentioned advocating for safe places for people to park.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other specific policies that the choir, as now an activist group, an active and vocal one, are there any specific policies? There's a few ballot measures that'll be up to vote on in November.
Right.
Are you backing any of those?
I haven't even had a chance to read those. I know that, there's some attorneys that are really supportive and that we work with, and they're working together on something. And we support that and real policy change that will decriminal, the end of the criminalization, and ticketing people that have no place to go. That's our biggest thing that we hope we draw attention to.
Okay.
And the city is kind of doing some good things. They got the tent open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's being run by Alpha, and they're doing an amazing job.
Okay.
Three different agencies. Alpha's Veterans Village and
right.
And
Sorry.
Father Joe's.
Sorry, my fault. But there is some help happening, but it just as much attention as we can bring to the humanitarian crisis.
Okay.
To make people know that even that there is a policy for there's a lot of people that still are disconnected from this issue.
I can only say that I never expected to. I was the person that walked around homeless people, did not connect, was not, and having gone through the experience, I have a deep empathy, and I have an understanding for how people feel on both sides. Somebody that's spent a lot of money in a beautiful home and that is impacted by homelessness, and it's that's unfortunate, and I respect that, but the reality is that I never expected that the level of services was, I thought there was a bigger safety net. We certainly spend enough money. Yeah. I didn't think that it was possible that you could actually just sort of grind off a pretty decent life and paying a significant amount of taxes and end up on the street with nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was your experience.
I paid taxes my whole life, so that's why I'm fortunate with the Social Security, but it didn't prepare me for living in my car.
Well, it's not enough.
Well, yeah, and
It's-
Social Security is not enough to pay for rent in San Diego. Is that kind of
No.
why?
Oh, absolutely not.
Not if you want to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do anything else, you can just stand in your apartment and then you can afford it. But if you don't do anything else, you know,
There's a
Wilt
problem.
away right there. I've got a great spot.
yeah.
So your house, are you? Was it? How long did that process take for you?
Approximately 2.5. Yeah, I was out there
2.5
for
years.
a while.
Yeah.
So about 2.5 years. And I never expected it to take that long. I thought when I initially became homeless that there was, like John said, a safety net. I was expecting to get into a shelter at some place where I could, hopefully start over again.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to perform the job I had prior to that. I became ill.
Right.
I have MS and epilepsy. I really didn't expect that this process was going to take that long, and that there was just so little caring from city, state officials, county officials. It took me a very long time to get even general relief.
Yeah.
Because they kept finding little tiny details that really didn't matter about me getting the funding.
Oh, right.
Just as
So
a
circling
chance to
back and saying,
remind
"Oh,
me.
you need to do this for your
Mhm.
application. You need to."
Right.
And
so that
that's-
whole time you were on a waiting list.
Yeah, and I was on the street with no money.
Right.
By the time I hit the street, I had wasted my 401, not wasted, but I'd blown through my 401k,
Right. Mm-hmm.
my individual savings,
Mhm.
and my severance package.
Mm-hmm.
I was in IT for 20 years,
Oh, wow.
and it was just a complete shock to me.
Right.
I was a public safety police dispatcher for about 20 years, and
Oh, wow.
I had a wonderful retirement that I thought would last a while, and I was
Sadly mistaken.
I was mistaken. Yes, sadly mistaken. I spent it all for my daughter and I to be able to survive in our apartment for 2.5 years while some of that time, not all of it, but definitely the last 6 months very intensively, I looked for work. And I was not fortunate enough to acquire something, so we ended up with an eviction, but also the money that I had spent, that was the retirement. I didn't mind. I have no problem with it, but
That's
it's
just
just
what
no way to
happened.
get it back.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
It's gone.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is we know now from our experience that we can do a better job.
Mm-hmm.
We as a city, we're a leadership in health innovation. We're a leadership in technology innovation. We're a leadership. There's a lot of resources here. And if you break it all down and you add it all up, we're spending a tremendous amount of money terrorizing people. And exacerbating the problem. And if we spent that money well and did some innovative things instead of the same thing over again, we're going to build a tent, we're going to build another. There are some innovative solutions out there, and we just encourage this
And
city,
cities
all
that
of
have
the
had
leadership.
success and-
Yeah,
And, there's always been this, I think everybody listening probably to this would know this and agree, but, there's this disconnect between the county and their services and the city, and it's
Right.
seen as downtown San Diego's issue, district, what is that? District 10, 11, whatever that's
right,
called.
right.
That it's their issue, even though homelessness is happening everywhere,
Right.
Right, and over half the homeless is in the rest of the county.
Mm-hmm.
So county oversees our food stamps, Social Security. They got it.
And they're
They
sitting
got
on
us, and they can help
billions
it.
of dollars.
Well, we
Yeah.
won't get all into that,
Yeah,
but just that
We
think
did cover that.
yeah, so we do think that there could be better work there,
Right.
right? I
Sure.
mean, there's definitely the funds, and I think the choir does this really cool job of kind of waking the audience up to see who's experiencing the crisis, and they look just like them in the audience, and
Absolutely.
we can do better. We know some solutions, that's happening.
Yeah,
Yeah, it helps,
and
I think,
for-
to elicit a little empathy from
Yeah.
the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to declare over and over again that this is America's finest city, this is pretty embarrassing.
Yeah,
Ticketing and the clearing of the encampments still happens, right?
right.
It's
Well,
very
yes.
unfortunate.
So
but
what
yes.
do you tell people when you have like a policymaker or a city council person, or you're at these meetings? What's the alternative? What should the city be doing?
Well, They have approved it before to have storage, to have storage facilities. And I know that a lot of our elected officials too, like they have adopted this language. They do want these changes. So it really is going to take like the voters and all of us kind of not pushing away a facility. Like right now there's a storage facility that's happening. This meeting's
20th
happening.
and Commercial, I believe.
Yeah, and that's my zone. I mean, I live in outside of Golden Hill, and I'm in that, I see little Facebook groups where the community gets together and they're like, we got to ban the homelessness, facility.
I got that very alert.
I got that alert. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. We have to create space because people will not disappear. Anybody listening, anybody who's on the fence about how to address the situation, let me just give you one little tip. People won't go away.
Right. So aside from building empathy and compassion and advocating for these policies, the choir itself has had real big-time successes. Let's talk about those.
Yes. We've connected 27 people to shelter, to safe housing. We've seen people go back to work, do better health-wise, feel better. Yeah, I don't know what else.
I mean, I think we're working with our partners, our homeless partners out there, and they deserve a lot of credit because we just know where the resources are, and we can maybe make the right phone call to point people the right direction.
Exactly,
which is a big help because right now the system is a little bit messed up in terms of how we're not serving people.
Yeah, once you hit the street, the effectiveness of the information that's available to those people is almost nil. Was it 411?
211.
211. Yeah.
Yeah. People often just tell you to call 211. Right.
It was worthless to me.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And the Regional Task Force for the Homeless has an idea of the 50 some odd agencies in town that can provide services. But the catch is, because there's always a catch, you have to have a housing navigator assigned to you in most cases,
before
in order
you can
to go into
anything.
Either transitional or permanent housing.
Correct.
And you've got to meet with somebody who is, because they're all overwhelmed. There's plenty of people out there looking for housing. So the housing navigators, they're trying to do what they can, but until you get one assigned to you, even then,
it's still a challenge.
Rapid rehousing is not rapid. It's not at all.
Well, and it depends on how you score in the system and certain unique characteristics. And there's, they do try to do matching. It's right now there's just a lot of gaps.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know about it.
Well, that net that exists, if it does, there's a lot of holes in it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think anyone who's gone to the DMV, or for me, it was like getting pregnancy disability. Anytime you interface with a government entity, I mean, I can just visualize what you're talking about.
Right.
It must be
bureaucry.
It is, and the reality is people don't understand, because how fragmented our system is, just how much effort it takes just to make the connections, just to keep food stamps current on for somebody, just to keep their GR, their monthly cash working, just to keep their Medicaid current, all these different things that for somebody who is being emotionally, aggressed every day on the street and dealing with their own issues, and then dealing with having the police take all your ID and your paperwork. So you were on, we've had situations where people were on the verge of housing, got arrested and thrown in jail. And when they got out, all their paperwork's gone.
Oh, gosh.
So they didn't get into housing.
Like so frustrating.
That's not uncommon. No.
Yeah. Well, while I was living on the street, I had 2 tents stolen and one just completely robbed.
With all of its contents.
Yeah, with IDs, social security cards.
Folks will come in and take whatever they can carry away and figure out whether they can use it later.
Yes,
so there's no discretion about what they take. You don't get that fortune. You don't get that luck.
No.
They just take everything.
Let's play a clip from the movie.
Oh.
A lot of people that we meet in the choir, we don't know their background. We hold space for them in a loving way and create community and invite them in. They can bring who they are. We'll be there tomorrow. Come kick it with us.
Yeah, I will get there tomorrow.
Please do. Cool. Do you sing? Do you play any music? No. No? Well, you don't have to be a singer. You can just come and hang out. This problem occurs in every city and in every state. It is a travesty.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming in and sharing your stories.
Thanks, Kinsey.
No, you're quite
Thanks,
welcome.
Voice of San Diego.
You
Love
can
you.
get more information about Voices of Our City Choir at www.voicesofourcity.org.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find information about booking the choir, joining the choir, and where you can see the upcoming documentary.
Unbound, my voice is free. We sound good.